What's going down? What's going on with people? It's your boy YTC. As you can tell, for the last 6 years on YouTube, I want to give context. For the last 6 years on YouTube, I've been doing pick'ems, I've been doing WWE videos, I've been doing NHL soundtracks and whatnot. Whatever made me a lot of good views and got me a lot of subscriptions and got me to the place where I'm at right now. For the last 6 years, I've been doing this since I was a junior in high school. I've been doing this for a very long time. But I decided to take this next chapter. For those not aware right now, or are new to my channel that, watch my pick'ems but don't know my favorite team. As people who know me for a very long time, I'm a diehard Giants fan. I've been a diehard since 2006 as a 7-year-old kid from Queens. But that's besides the point. I'll get further into my experience as a fan, down the lines, because I plan to do these type of videos, about the Giants. I'm heading in this direction with my YouTube path about covering my favorite team because, I've seen my friends have inspired me. Guys like John Jay, TRL, Giants Nation, they've inspired me to, cover my own fan base, to an extent, which I want to showcase my passion and my knowledge for the team that I grew up loving to do. But that's besides the point. I'm ready to do the season recap about the entire 2022 to 23 season and my thoughts and insights heading into this year, beforehand and before what I thought. So let's just get into the video. So also heading into the year, so we switch to the wiki page, right, to give more context so I can start from the beginning of the 2022 offseason, long before our season transpired, what I thought about the team. Let me go ahead and bear with me for a second. Heading into the year, right? We obviously fired. We fired Joe. I don't know if you guys could see it. Hang on. There you go. Obviously, we into the Giants front office. This year. We fired our head coach, Joe Judge, after, the way he conducted himself and the way he failed to take accountability for the team whenever they lost. He was being preachy and this and that, trying to save face, but we dealt with him, especially after the QB sneak game, which I personally had the displeasure of attending. Along with Gettleman bankrupting this team, I guess he retired here after 4 years on the Giants after 2018. So yeah, there's pretty much that. Heading into the offseason, I'm not gonna lie to you, I had a lot of questions. I have a lot of questions beforehand than I did now. Currently, as of this, I'm speaking right now. But heading into the offseason, back in 22 hindsight, I did not know what we were gonna do. But heading into the offseason, I did kind of want an Adam Peters or Brian or Joe Shane because of what he did with Buffalo and because of his affiliations with Buffalo. So I was kind of on board with the Joe Shea train, but I also wanted more of Adam Peters from the 49ers because of what he's been able to do in the mid-rounds and their history in San Francisco. I will say that much. Heading into the year, offseason, once I heard we hired Joe Shane, I'm like, all right, we got the top candidate, so practically we're going to see what this guy has, And then for the head coaching church, he bought in his other guy from Buffalo, Brian DeBall, obviously, or Brian Dable, however you want to pronounce it. So I was more of a wait and see, heading into the season. I did not know what those two were gonna do. So, but I would have applauded John Mara for hiring outside the system without familiarity with the Giants. So heading into the year, I kind of was thankful that Mara actually didn't hire from connections and actually outside the facility head, so we turned to Buffalo, I suppose. But heading into the year, we made a lot of moves. We fired Jason Garrett. We fired Rob Sale, Sean Spencer. We fired a lot of people. Patrick Graham, went to go over the Las Vegas Raiders over there. A lot of these guys you see on the bottom, Freddie Kitchens, they're gone. I guess Tom Quinn, he was gone too. Probably, yeah, everybody was practically fired. As you could see down here, everybody was fired. But either way, we cleaned house. We did what we had to. Then the offseason came. We got rid of Jake Fromm, Kyle Murphy, probably a role player. Got rid of a lot of people. We kept David Sills. We didn't get Gillespie back. Half of these guys we didn't bring back, obviously, because of the bad regime. Lorenzo Carter went to the Falcons, and one Evan Ingram, you already know his story. He went to the Jaguars and did pretty well for himself over there. Will Hernandez, he went to Arizona. Austin Johnson went to the Chargers. We were signed Casey Crowder, a long snapper, obviously. Peppers went to the Patriots. Dante Pettis went to Chicago. Billy Price to Arizona. Let me skip through all that, but we did sign Jalen Smith after, last year's offseason. No, last year's midseason, we did sign him during the back end of the last year's season when we were 4-13. I remember making a signing, but yeah, he's on the team currently right now. As for the offseason acquisitions, we did pick up Jordan Atkins. He didn't pan out to do much either way. Matt Breida was definitely a solid signing in my opinion, looking in hindsight now. He averages about a good 4 to 5 yards per carry, but the only problem is that he has injury concerns. Justin Ellis was a decent rotational player that we picked up, and I was a more wait and see for the majority of these free agents. But yeah, Justin Ellis, he's good for the bench. I'm not gonna knock down his hustle. But Feliciano, I had high hopes for Feliciano, but he disappointed me massively. It was one of the reasons why we couldn't run the ball establishedly in the middle, and why Daniel Jones' majority of the pressure came from the middle than the blind side on Andrew Thomas and Evan Neal. But we'll get to those guys later. But we did sign Lewinsky. Lewinsky, I'm going to still be more of a wait and see with Lewinsky. He had his ups and downs, but the majority of were downs. But I'm hoping to see, since he's under contract, if he can have a turnaround next year. But that remains to be seen. Richie James, I thought we had a good punt returner and a good. I did not expect him to take a lot of receiving snaps, especially since we had Kadarius Toney at the time, when we have Wando Robinson, who we drafted, by the way, who I'm going to get to later. Jahal Ward was a solid signing. Ricky Seals-Jones, we didn't even do much. Tyrod Taylor proved to be Tyrod Taylor's a decent backup per usual. As for the roster moves, obviously we didn't have a lot of money. We were definitely in cap hell, so we definitely had to restructure. That meant I'm restructuring Sterling Shepard. Blake Martinez eventually got restructured, but eventually cut before the week started. Graham Gano definitely got restructured, but he still was in there under contract. Adoree took the restructure to stay on the team, obviously. Departures, I was kind of pissed off we got rid of Logan Ryan. He was a really good safety, and also James Bradbury and Martinez. Those three guys were really guys that I felt could have contributed on their weak defense, and we could have had now, and were part of the reasons we were able to stop the run, which we sucked this year. But that's besides the point. I also had high hope for Caden Smith, but he didn't pan out either. But I guess Daniel Bellinger, who we also drafted, is also panning out. Devontae Booker, man, we replaced him. We had Gary Brightwell, so obviously he beat him out. He was good, but running backs are easily replaceable position in today's NFL. Obviously, we signed a bunch of these other guys. Significant guys we signed were Gillian and Bachman. He's on the practice squad. We signed Chris Myrak, who was also a good blocking tight end for us. Davis Webb was a third stringer. Obviously, he played that final game versus Eagles, obviously. But we'll get to him in a minute. Heading into the draft, if you look at my videos, I was very ecstatic drafting Kayvon Thibodeau. Evan Neal as well. I kind of expected it. I did not expect Evan Neal to get drafted to us, to be honest. I thought we were going to go get Charles Cross heading into the draft. I knew part of me thought we were going to get Kayvon Thibodeau, but I didn't think we were going to get him that early at 5. I thought he would have dropped to 7, but that's besides the point. I was ecstatic with those two guys. Evan Neal, he's had his ups and downs. I hope he can, pick up the slack, obviously. He's had a couple of struggles during the middle of the season and, had his ups and downs, especially specifically the Cowboys game and the Eagles game were two big focal points where he struggled massively, and also he was hurt for a few games. So I hope he's only a rookie, so I'm not gonna, give him that much criticism, obviously, because Andrew Thomas had the same struggles, obviously, and he's panning out to be an all-pro left tackle, so there was that. Kayvon Thibodeau, even though the sack numbers don't display, he's been one of our best. He was definitely one of our best pass rushers heading into this year, and the numbers don't say, but pressure rates obviously display that he can rush the passer. But anyways, Wando Rob, we traded our picks to the Jets and Falcons. We traded back multiple times to get multiple picks in the future. I think we got Wando Robinson. He was a solid pickup. Sad that he tore his ACL. We didn't get enough playing time to see those guys play around. But it is what it is. But hopefully Wando comes back with a resurgence. He was playing really good. He had 100 receiving yards against Detroit before he tore his ACL. Hopefully we can get more of those when he comes back next year. I have high hopes for Wando Robinson next year's offense. He's definitely going to eat. Joshua Ezadu, I didn't see much from him, so I couldn't evaluate. I was happy we addressed his O-line situation, given we need a run blocking and pass blocking for Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley. As for Cordell Flott, he managed to be a big steal for us. He's been a shutdown corner. I've loved what I've seen from Cordell Flott. And also, I heard good things about Cordell Flott heading into the year, before the draft. And he's already lived up to expectations, in my opinion, with Cordell Flott. Daniel Bellinger's also lived up to expectations, I'll say that much. He's been a really solid tight end, blocking, helping in the run game, and also when he has to catch the ball. Besides that Vikings game, he's done a great job catching the ball, really. He's done a decent job. I'd like to say I think we got a solid tight end that helps a lot in the run blocking, but I would expect it for us to go target another tight end just to add more explosiveness to that position. Dane Belton was also another pickup because, after we got rid of Logan Ryan, I wanted to see who was going to fill the void that Logan Ryan left, but I guess Dane Belton and Julian Love have been filling that role significantly next to Xavier McKinney. I like to say that much. Michael McFadden, I was very disappointed with Michael McFadden. I thought he was going to help a lot in the run, but he declined then after against the run. I had high hopes for him. That's why we had to sign Gerard Davis. And obviously none of the two have been panning out, and obviously that's why linebackers are a significant need in this draft coming up for the Giants. DJ Davidson, I haven't seen much from him, nor does Marcus McKeithen, I guess, depth players. I will say I had high hopes for Darian Beavers because, we had a lot of we needed addresses at linebacker. We had a lot to address there. And Darian Beavers did decide to pan out to an extent. But, the torn ACL from preseason, hopefully comes back next year and we do more significantly better, I would like to see. Obviously coming out the preseason, right? Hang on, scroll down. We also did hire Wink Martindale and Mike Kafka. I know about Wink Martindale, so that's why I was confident, we picked up on those guys. So I'd like to give my my observations on every single player, top significant player right now. So first off, Daniel Jones. Before this year, panned out, I thought Jones would have been a stopgap, given he struggled for his second and third year. I felt Jones would have been a stopgap. We would have just used this year to rebuild with through the draft class, and then we would just get everything ready for the next quarterback. But Jones surprised me a lot. I thought he was just going to be a stopgap, given But I did believe in Jones to an extent. But part of me had a doubt in the back of my mind about Jones. Of him being a stopgap and, him just being a placeholder for the next quarterback. Something dark came in the back of my mind, but he clearly shut it up for the first couple of weeks, which I'll get to in a few weeks. Not in a few weeks, I'll get into a few minutes. As for Saquon, obviously, he came off a torn ACL. Heading into the year, hindsight, I did not expect much from Saquon since he was still recovering from it, but part of me had an optimism in the back of my mind he was going to pan out. Kenny Golladay, really, I was hoping he could have had a second-year resurgence. I had high hopes for him, but, things didn't pan out the way they wanted. Darius Slayton, I also didn't have high hopes for Darius Slayton. He did play well for the first half of the season until, second half he started falling off in terms of drops, I did not really, there's really nothing for me to take, say about Darius Slayton, just that, I don't value him as a, moving forward, really, because he has a lot of drops he does. It's really costly to the team, and hopefully we can address the receiving core. Daniel Bellinger, you already know I'd said it ahead of time. Lawrence Cager's been a solid pickup during the middle of the season. As for the offensive line, it could be a lot better, but Bredesen has stepped up this year. Andrew Thomas significantly stepped up. He's one of the MVPs of the year for sure. Really good at left tackle blocking and one of the top 5 tackles in the league right now. Tyree Phillips stepped up massively when, O-line, when Evan Neal got hurt. I think we should give Tyree Phillips more reps if Evan Neal struggles a bit for next year. It's a next man up position for a reason at offensive line. So, but yeah, Tyree Phillips stepped up pretty decently when Evan Neal got hurt. So we'll see what happens furthermore. Nick Gates shocked me as well. Coming off a torn calf. Part of his calf was torn off during that Washington game last year, week 2 on Thursday night primetime, and the way he came back in that position really wowed me, and he's still one of my favorite players on the team, obviously, to root for because of his story. But yeah, Nick Gates, I hope he makes the roster next year. He's really a great presence to have on the team, I'm not going to lie. As for the defensive line, Dexter Lawrence had a bounce back resurgence here. I did not think highly of Dexter Lawrence heading into the year, but he proved me wrong. I will say much about Dexter Lawrence. I have nothing but praise for him. As for Jahad Ward, he was a solid steal we picked up. I hope we resign him too. He brings a lot of swagger and a presence and energy to this defense that we need. Leonard Williams was a big disappointment for me, given what he was paid. He did have a few games, but it wasn't significant enough, back to back on a consistent basis. I wish we could. Thank God he's supposedly rumored to take a pay cut as of this recording, but we'll see what happens ahead of time. But Leonard Williams, he's likely going to be on the team next year unless we trade him or whatnot. But I expect better things from him next year, hopefully so. As for the linebacking core, we need help a lot. And specifically up in the middle. I had no problem with Kayvon Thibodeau. You know his story. He panned out to be a good rookie for us. Oceanic Zimenez can go kick rocks. I didn't see much from Zimenez. Jalen Smith, I don't want to bring him back that badly because he's not the same player as he once was. Obviously, he doesn't tackle as much, and he struggles against outside running tackling. He misses a lot of tackles, specifically up in the outside and middle as well. Micah McFadden, I hope to see improvement next year. Tom and Fox, he did have a few snaps. He made the most of it. That's all I can say at that point. Carter Coughlin's a good special teamer. We can keep him around. Same with Cam Brown. Landon Collins stepped up massively when we picked him back up from waivers after Washington didn't sign him, or nobody signed him. So Landon Collins was a big pickup for us. Gerard Davis, I have yet to see more, but I think they're going to bring him back to compete with Darian Beavers next year. And we'll see who becomes the cream of the crop. As for our corners, right? Dane Belton, I already told you about earlier. Cordell Flott stepped up massively. Darnay Holmes, he has to go. He's been getting cooked a lot. I thought Darnay would have had a third-year resurgence, but it seems like that's not the case. I had expectations for Darnay Holmes, and he didn't live up to it, in my opinion. Adoree Jackson was hurt for the majority of the year. Hopefully, it was just 1 year, but when he did play, he was a big difference against the secondary. He definitely helps out a lot in shutting these top receivers down. Hopefully, he's still around. Tony Jefferson, I didn't see much of him. I can't really say much. Julian Love was definitely a step up in the defense. He was a commanding and presence on that defense next to Xavier McKinney. Both of those guys really, play their hearts out at the secondary and free safety position. I have nothing but respect for them, nothing but praise. Hopefully those two remain there for a very long time on the Giants. Love the energy those two bring to the Giants secondary with McKinney. But McKinney, even though he missed a few games because of the car ATV whatnot accident, whenever he was on the field, he was worth it. He was making tackles left and right. He was making a lot of pass deflections and picks. Well, not picks really, pass deflections. He doesn't have as many picks as he did last year, but it is what it is. But hopefully he has a third-year resurgence. As for Rodarius Williams, I was surprised we didn't give him enough playing time. He did pretty decently well. I don't know why they didn't cut him after the why they didn't not cut him. They didn't give him more playing time after he did well against the Cowboys. Fabian Monroe, he did have a good first half, but I don't know why he fell off in the second half, and he eventually got replaced by Cordell Flott. But they're gonna probably try to bring him back to compete with one of these corners, and if in training camp, he's probably another camp body. They might win out, but I don't see much of that. As for special teams, Graham Gano was really solid for us. Really solid, consistent kicker, except for that Washington game. But outside of that Washington game, he was really solid for us, I'd like to say. Jamie Gillian, really decent punter. Hopefully he can improve and, not losing the ball like on these punts. He's a decent punter in my opinion, but could be a lot better if he would have learned not to bobble a lot of snaps, because he did it during the Eagles game specifically, I think. We had a lot of miscues, but hopefully that doesn't affect them next year. Don't mind Jamie Gillian. Not much to say. All right, so we're going to the preseason now. We're going to recap the first half of the year, and then I'm going to end the video by week 8 of the regular season. I'll go by there. So, heading into the year, right? The preseason game against the Patriots, we'll go one by one. Against that game, we played Bailey Zappi. Obviously, our run offense in that game was significantly well. It was one of the reasons why we were able to throw. And Daniel Jones, I think he went. I think for the game he went. Whatchamacall? He had a good completion percentage. He did do a lot of dick and dunks before the ending of the first. He had an open touchdown to Galladay, but Galladay dropped it, and that's what ended his drive. As for the Bengals, Jones did play much better, even though he should have had one pick, even though he threw a pick, but that was really mainly on Bellinger. The ball deflecting on his hands and going behind the defender, so that's what led to Daniel Jones getting picked and letting him to get scrutinized by a bunch of fans who wanted to start Tyrod Taylor. As for the Jets game, Daniel Jones didn't even play that much. I didn't think he played. I think it was mostly Tyrod Taylor and Davis Webb starting the majority of the game. I mean, there's nothing much to take away. I guess it was a very close game until they ran away with the score. Really. There was nothing really much to take away, but all right, heading into this game, right? All right. I will say heading into this week one, right? Versus the Titans. We were down 13-0 at some point. Our run defense couldn't stop a nosebleed. This guy, Dontre Hillard, was cooking us, and I was very irritably frustrated during the stream, obviously, where I got to the point where I was breaking down because of all the misery I've witnessed within the Giants, starting out 0-1 and whatnot. Until we had a second half comeback versus them. I think versus the Titans, we had a second half comeback, and that touchdown, that run by Saquon Barkley was sparked everything, in my opinion. So that's what led to the touchdown to Sterling Shepard ahead of time, and that's what led him to that sparked the comeback. I think we tied the game or whatnot, and then after that, it was 21-13. They scored back then with the Hillard guy, I believe, or the other dude. I forgot who it was, but still, they scored, and then we drove down the field. And what I liked about Brian the Ball was him being gutsy. That showed me the first sign of him being not conservative. That's when he kind of won me over. He also kind of won me over after Jones threw that pick in the end zone, where he cursed out Daniel Jones. Yeah. Also, friendly reminder, I'm going to timestamp half of these segments so that way you can skip ahead. You don't have to hear my boring voice for the majority of the time. But yeah, this is just my take on things. But I will say, Carolina, the week after, even though we won on a missed field goal versus the Titans, the week after Carolina, the defense really came through in that game. It was mostly a lot of turnovers that we won. I think we forced 2 fumbles in that game. Jones was practically a game manager, but we did have Daniel Bellinger's first career touchdown as a Giants, so that was good to see. And I think Saquon had one, I believe. But I guess the rest of the game, we were just kicking field goals for the majority of the game, and, we game managed. Our defense came through and won the game. Jones got the game-winning first down. It was a really good game-managing win. I think the week after, Monday Night Football, we played the Cowboys. We were heavily we did not expect the Cowboys' front seven to be this nasty, and obviously they took advantage of our inexperienced O-line at the time. So their front seven was getting after Daniel Jones, and we were forcing a lot of bad throws. He tried his best to win the game, obviously, but the Cowboys had too many firepower on the offense with Cooper Kupp, and they were able to run the ball. So Tony Pollard just ran the ball down our throats in that game. We couldn't stop the run for nothing. Obviously, that's one of the main Achilles for the Giants when we lose these games. Usually, we can't stop the run, obviously, because we were 27 finishing the run this year, obviously. But Hakuna Matata for that game, versus the Cowboys, obviously. We had to regroup easily. We had to regroup then after for the Chicago Bears heading into that. They were also coming into the year 2-1, obviously. And, Michael and I, we were trash talking and bantering. We played a young quarterback in Justin Fields that game. So, we had 2 turnovers on them because their punt returner, Velus Jones, obviously fumbled twice. And the majority of the game was very rainy, and, both teams were just running the ball. Khalil Herbert and Saquon Barkley obviously led the team in rushing. Daniel Jones had 2 rushing touchdowns on 2 bootlegs, obviously. And obviously we won the game because of, the majority of the game after the 2 touchdowns Daniel Jones ran for, we were just kicking field goals, obviously, and then our defense had to come through. I will say the defense played really well to the point where they only kicked on 4 field goals. They didn't score a single touchdown. And obviously, special teams won us the game when they fumbled the ball. Felix Jones fumbled it to steal it, and then the Giants ran the clock out significantly. Even though we missed a field goal in that game, that would have made it 23-12. Obviously, the defense came through for a final stop against Chicago, and we won. Heading into Green Bay, right? I think the week after we played in London, 9 o'clock Eastern time in the morning. Versus Green Bay, I did not have high hopes of beating Green Bay, especially with Rodgers and that offense over there. And I was right in the first half, at least, because they went out to like a 20-10 lead, I believe. Within the first half, they scored 20 points on us, I think. And then after that, second half came through. Even though Saquon got hurt, Daniel Jones and the defense came through. They drove down the field 99 yards, I think, just from the 1 yard line starting, I think, at some point. That was the real turning point for the team, especially when we got a crucial 3-and-out. We drove down the field. Daniel Bellinger had his second career touchdown as well. We also had a touchdown on Matt Breida, I believe, after he was out. Correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah, because Saquon wasn't on that drive when we took the lead. Obviously, I think after. Could be wrong, but anyways, we were up 27-20. Our defense came through, obviously, in the final drive where Rodgers had to drive down the field at the goal line. Our defense came through once again. Really, really good win in that game. I think part of me at that point after the Packers game thought we can actually make a run given our softer schedule heading ahead. But I did underestimate some of these opponents moving forward, but I'll get to that in the next video and come to this early video. But I will say, the Ravens were a tough challenge for us, obviously. Looking forward, I know beating Lamar was not going to be very easy, heading into the versus the Ravens offense. They're really good against the run, and they were really good against defense, especially however, they were near dead last in the league, I think, heading into that week against the pass. So I knew our receivers would have a day against them, or at least one of them. But yeah, I think Slayton had a few catches. The majority of the game was, I think, Wando Robinson making a few catches and Daniel Jones running on Saquon. I mean, we were down. I think we were down 10-7. I think at one point, and then from there, I think by the fourth quarter we were down like 20-10. At that point, I mean, I was pissed off because we didn't kick the field goal, obviously, inside the 40. But that's besides the point. We still somehow won the game. Our defense once again came through. We forced the turnover on Lamar. He bobbled the snap the first time. He tried to pick it up, go to Mark Andrews, and then Julian Love picked him up, obviously. And obviously my stream is all documented in these games, so that's how I know. But obviously, that was the turning point in that game. And then I guess he scored a touchdown to Saquon Barkley, obviously. And then after, I think our defense came through once again on the fumble recovery. Now, the fumble recovery was to steal it, I believe. And then after, but ahead of time, we drove on the field. Wando got his first career touchdown, I believe, before that. And then we got the pick off Julian Love and then the fumble recovery on Kayvon Thibodeau to steal it. It was a really good win from the Giants, and also the selling point of the team where I thought we can beat anyone. We can beat anyone after the Ravens game. That was the selling point for me. Heading the next week versus the Jaguars, I had a bet going on with this Jaguars content creator with Jagganoff, but that's besides the point. For some reason, the Jaguars were heavy favorites at home, slight favorites at home somehow, and they were I think below 500 at the time, like 3 wins, and somehow we were underdogs to them. That didn't make any sense to me, but that's the point. Heading into the Jaguars game, we drove down the field on the opening drive. We scored a touchdown, obviously, with Darius Slayton. But then they drove back and scored because we couldn't stop the run against Travis Etienne. Travis Etienne ran down our throats, and that's why Trevor Lawrence had. For the majority of the game, Trevor Lawrence was just stripping the ball on these receivers. He did not look phased against our defense. He did not. He was easily connecting the balls to the defenses on a significant basis during the game, but our defense had to come through for the majority of the times, and also our offense did struggle at times, including Jones almost throwing a pick, but the penalty came back. I'll give Jones criticism for that pick right there. Should have not forced that one, but the flag came back, so Hakuna Matata. Obviously, the drive after the Marcus Johnson drop had me fuming on stream. I'm not gonna lie to you. That Marcus Johnson drop that could have given us the lead, but that was besides the point. They were pinned back at their own 5, I believe. We got the ball back, and obviously we came through, and then our offense drove down the field and did what they do best in these comeback drives. I think Saquon and DJ both had about 100 rushing yards in their defense. They both ran the ball heavily against their defense against them, and that's what really sold me on the fact that we had a good run attack with those two, and that we could beat anyone, obviously. Like I said the week beforehand. But we did lose a lot of significant players in that game, like Daniel Bellinger and Evan Neal, I believe. We lost a lot of significant players in that game versus the Jaguars. Even though we won at the 1 yard line, it was very close how we won, given the refs were very controversial on both sides in that game. But that's besides the point. We got away with the victory. But Jaguars were a really good team, obviously. Especially how the season ended for them, how far they got, like we did. I'll give the Jaguars credit for that. Anyways, heading into the next week versus Seattle, Seattle I knew we probably weren't going to win that game because Seattle out heavily manned us on offense, and obviously we couldn't do anything. So there was that, and also the offense came in with a lot of injuries, so we were traveling that far from Florida all the way to Seattle. A part of me knew that was a game we were going to lose before the bye week because injuries were too much. They were eventually going to catch up to us, and Kenneth Gainwell ran through our defense for the majority. I think in the second half he ran through our defense. We contained them for a bit, but then after Tyler Lockett got open after he dropped the ball, he took it personally like MJ and basically got a touchdown on us. And then, they ran up the score then after. We could have came back and won the game. It was like 13-20. We had a shot to come back down like 4 minutes, but Richie James fumbled the ball. And that's what led to the following scoring drive from Kenneth Walker. That was pissed off of Richie James, and I wanted to cut him that day. I will admit that. But heading into the bye week, I had a lot of optimism since we were 6-2, a rebuilding team and whatnot. But that's all the time I got for now. I'm gonna make a part 2 then after this. Leave your comments about my video and what I can do to improve. I'll take any constructive criticism where I can. I will also like to hear your thoughts about my opinions about the team within the offseason and the first half of the year. So leave your comments below, and I'm gonna head on out. It's really getting late right now, so like to see you out.